Hello and welcome to Dimsy's Domain. This is a video talking about Soulburner versus Blood Shepherd, and it's such a dense topic. I don't think I can do it alone, and honestly everything might just be too overwhelming just for me to discuss. So I went to this guy called Yugioh Everything and I thought, hey, can you help me out to record this video? So what's good, Dylan? How are you?
Dimsy, I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very, very excited to, as always, discuss anything Yu-Gi-Oh related, Yu-Gi-Oh Vrains related, and yeah, very interested to hear what you have to say, hear what the people in the comment section have to say regarding Blood Shepherd versus Soulburner, the last duel that it took place in the show.
So what we're going to do is we're going to break down the duel itself and the feelings that we fought during the duel, during the episodes. And the episodes in question are going to be 61 all the way through 63. However, also we're going to talk about both Blood Shepherd's backstory as well as Soulburner's backstory. And let's start with little Soulburner. So we found out that he wasn't himself. In 61, they only focus on his backstory, which I've also expressed my views on my review. I really liked the way the episode was spliced together, and I think that it was a very adequate backstory. What do you think, Dylan, about his aesthetic, that he looks so vastly different to what we see of him now?
Yeah, I like it a lot. He looks a lot more, I don't want to say disheveled, but he looks a lot more like kind of rough and street type than he looks now, especially his like VR form. He looks a lot more just aesthetically pleasing. I don't want to say he was like, you know, kind of ugly to look at as a teen, because he obviously wasn't, but he just has this more kind of like street guy thug look to him. At least that's the vibe that I got, and I think that actually flows well with the kind of person he was. I mean, back then he was very unsure of himself. He had a lot of inner demons, as we saw with Despair from the Dark, with the whole trauma through that, and how he recovered from that. And I think his look changed once he was able to recover from that, once he was able to start moving forward into his future. So I think his aesthetic has changed based on how his view of life has changed, and I think the way they did that was actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and what I would add to that is that he came across as if that he's a shell, not a shell, but he's wearing a jacket. He's genuinely wearing a mask. He is not himself, and that is not the true Soulburner. That's not the true Takeru. And another thing about that backstory is the fact that it is also a nice explanation to kind of tell the viewer, where was he? Where was he? He knows, and he didn't really know about Link Vrains, but he was getting more and more aware of it, and of course he ends up meeting Flame. Compare that to Blood Shepherd, who was a very talented, just extremely talented, but essentially his trust was shattered from the accident involving his mother and an AI taxi. It's weird because in the same week they revealed that there was a story about automated Uber, right? And its first ever car crash. So coincidence? I don't know. But what do you think about Blood Shepherd's backstory? Do you think it was an adequate backstory? And what do you think about his aesthetic?
Yeah, well, Blood Shepherd, I praised it on my review, and I still will stand by. I think had the actual best, and at least for me, most realistic and hard-hitting backstory. I cannot tell you how many times my family and I, my mother, my dad, and my brother, we go out to dinner, and one of the topics that we talk about is automated cars, mainly because my dad and my brother and myself think it's like the coolest thing, and my mom is like, I will never get behind the wheel of an automated car. Like, I need to be driving. Like, that is terrifying. And there's a decent amount of people that do feel that way. So the whole debate on self-driving cars, and as you mentioned, there was a fatal accident where I believe I think they struck a pedestrian in Arizona. Yeah, and so that is a legit debate. Like, are we really ready for automated cars? And are we, even though the ironic thing is that car accidents, I think, are the leading cause of death, or one of the leading cause of accidental death. I think it's behind, like, heart disease or some other illness. But in terms of accidental death, car crashes are by far the number one a killer. So when you take away human error, you think, okay, well, things are going to get better, and they definitely will. But the fact that now you don't control that is kind of like, it's a little scary when you think about it. So the fact that we saw Blood Shepherd, who reminded me a lot of myself, and his mom reminded me a lot of my mom, go into this car, and then we saw what happened, they really touched on it was almost like too realistic, I felt like, but that's a good thing. Like, those kind of tragic backstories should make you feel a little uneasy and uncomfortable, and if they can relate well to real world circumstances, then bravo. And I think Blood Shepherd's backstory was real, and I thought it was honestly magnificently done.
Do you have a prosthetic arm as well?
Yes, yeah, the prosthetic arm was great, and like, that's the thing. The very beginning of the flashback, he's this happy kid who's about to, work for his mom, who I believe just graduated high school, and he's nothing but smiles at the dinner table and in the car. And then you see him in the hospital, and when he's told that his mom will never walk again and that his right arm is going to be gone, you can just see that anger take over. And once he was told that news, and that's why they showed us that scene, because once he was told that news, that's when his complete aesthetic, demeanor completely changed, and now he's this very cold-hearted, cruel character. And honestly, as a viewer, you completely understand it. You completely get it. And I'm not surprised that he's the way he is in current day.
And then if you were to compare that to Soulburner's backstory, because honestly, both of those backstories really can hit home. They're very relatable. They're very reminiscent of the trials and tribulations a young adult faces, be it through their school career, their employment career, or just in general. They do face these very realistic obstacles, whereby with Soulburner's case, he's unsure of himself. Soulburner is untapped potential who's not trying to let out his potential. Someone has to force out that potential, and that resonates very well with me, because what it comes across, what it does really put forward is someone who lacks motivation. And when you meet that someone or someone else who can pry you out and just get a crowbar and just pull you out of this abyss and chuck you into the light, that's what it feels like. The dynamic I get between Soulburner as well as Flame. Flame complements Soulburner in such a way. You know what? I think that the Flame and Takeru dynamic is better than the one that we see between Yusaku and I. Now, I think between the backstories, they're complete opposites of each other. And when they were paired up to duel, they've built up Soulburner as a fantastic and a terrifying antagonist or secondary antagonist for this season, for season 2 of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. So when Soulburner was trapped and was captured by Blood Shepherd, I was like, okay then, they're gonna duel. But the truth is, and we are going to be talking about the duel in a bit, I was really scared because I really didn't want them to duel. I really, really wanted Soulburner and Blood Shepherd not to duel at all, because of the fact that, and a lot of people are voicing their opinions, and you know what, I agree with them. Soulburner has been built as this unstoppable winning machine. Any lost incident child is suddenly thrust onto the spotlight in a more favorable fashion compared to the established characters such as Go, such as Aoi, such as Ghost Girl. And a lot of people are saying, oh, it's not really fair, man. It feels kind of wrong that Soulburner has gained so much love, whereas the others are not. Soulburner beat Go. Now, my argument to those who say, oh, that's not fair, you're burying Go's character. My argument is that wasn't Go. That wasn't Go Onizuka. That's a Go Onizuka who was not sure of himself. That's a Go Onizuka who's trying other things. So Soulburner beat this carbon copy, a copy of Go, but not the true Go, because I think the true Go can beat Soulburner. Now, when Soulburner engaged, actually, you know what? When Blood Shepherd dug through the memories of Soulburner, I think it was very smart for him to then find the weakness. Now, of course, we're going to talk about the resolution in a bit, but when they engaged in the duel, it was a really nice clash of styles. The styles between Blood Shepherd always trying to control the pace, and Soulburner just pure soul. He's just pure and utter energy. He's so enthusiastic, and then you see the contrast between the playing styles between Blood Shepherd and Soulburner, and you also talk about and you look at the contrast between the past of Soulburner and Blood Shepherd. Their playing styles in the present, comparing it to the past, they're both polar opposites. So what did you think about the duel between Blood Shepherd and Soulburner?
It's a good question. You know, It's funny that you said earlier that you didn't want these two to duel, because I kind of agreed with you. I mean, I didn't. When I found out they were dueling, it's like, oh, that's awesome. I love Blood Shepherd. I'm glad he's getting another duel. But at the same time, I'm like, but what's the price of this? For Soulburner to get another win, for Blood Shepherd to get buried again, and now this awesome, badass bounty hunter literally is going to be 2 losses, and he's lost to both the Ignis holders, and how do you justify giving him another duel against one of them? So the ending, which I don't want to just jump around, but the ending, how it ended with the no result, I thought was fabulous. I couldn't have envisioned a better result, because honestly, Soulburner cannot afford a loss either, because if he loses the Ignis. And yes, it would be a crazy plot twist, but I don't think, I think it'll happen at some point, but I think this would have been a little too kind of out of nowhere for it to happen. So the ending was beautifully done. No result. It just, I think, increases the tension if it's done right, and it hypes up another rematch between these two. So, and maybe later on, the show will be in a position where Blood Shepherd can actually get a win and Soulburner will lose the Ignis. But, yeah, the dueling was great. Soulburner, obviously, acting like he was terrified of these monsters, and basically
Did you like that? Did you like that, though?
I liked it from the present aspect, and the present day aspect is that he used Blood Shepherd's tactics against him. But what a lot of people pointed out to me in the comment section, and something that I kind of agreed with, but I just didn't really touch on in my review, is that I feel like in the past, Soulburner got over his trauma way too easily. It was like Flame yelling at him to get up, and then literally after about probably 30 to 40 seconds, this awful trauma, this awful childhood trauma. Sometimes people never get over childhood trauma, and if they do, it usually takes, extensive amounts of therapy and time. And so for the fact that it took 30 to 40 seconds, and it wasn't like this, Flame guy is some master therapist, it's literally an Ignis. It's someone that's based off Soulburner, that Homura has only known for literally like maybe 8 hours. I think it was the same day that he went. So, like, it's not like they had, like, a big bond, or, like, it wasn't, like, a best friend situation. So that felt kind of rushed. It felt a little sloppy. And the fact that now he's fully over the trauma in present day maybe was a little unbelievable. So that was maybe a bit of an issue that I did have with the scene. I thought it worked in present day, and I thought him tricking Blood Shepherd was a really cool twist in the duel. But him getting over the trauma was maybe a little too easy.
Yeah, I agree. Personally, I did not like how it was handled at all. I think that in terms of the present day aspect, I still didn't think it was good, because Blood Shepherd, he didn't really reveal his tactics. I don't see how Soulburn and Flame could have known his tactics, because he only dueled Yusaku before that. And I'm not sure that they were able to, how would Flame have gathered the data, and if he did gather the data, how would Flame have communicated that to Takeru? So that's one of the things which I thought was a bit iffy. And I believe that Yusaku was in therapy for quite a while after the incident. I'm not sure if Soulburner went for the same thing, but the issue I have is the fact that, yeah, exactly, it mirrors your concerns. He got over it far too quick. One thing I do want to say about Blood Shepherd's dueling style is, I want to highlight this, and you guys in the comment section, please comment down below, especially if you do play the game. I love the fact that he plays a very, very control themed deck where he doesn't trust Ignis, so he's a control freak, so he likes to have everything to be exactly in his control. He likes to have a floodgate trap that stops the opponent to play at their own pace. He forces everyone to play his game. They're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh, they're playing Blood Shepherd's game. That's what it comes across as. And the duel itself was really well done. I think that it was a very back and forth duel, and personally it's just the ending itself, the way the reveal happened, blah 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 blah, I was actually faking it. And yeah, I believe you speculated during your cast list video where you spoke about, hey, actually they've not revealed the end of the flashback, and of course that seemed to be the case. I didn't like the way that reveal happened, but as you said, I was elated, absolutely over the moon that it ended in a no contest, and that was a really good way to set up a future duel. And I think that Blood Shepherd has been built up in such a way where he's a genuine threat. He rivals the genius of Dr. Kogami and the Ignis, because he created that program, he was able to, he's ruthless, he's brutal, and he's very, very clinical, and he's very cool. He is very, very cool, and he's just this major X factor in the mix, and hopefully they don't squander him. He shouldn't have lost. He shouldn't have even duel Playmaker, and thankfully they kept it ambiguous, saying that, he would have won when he spoke to Ghost Girl, and the way he ended, he was about to blast Ghost Girl. So we don't know what's going to happen in the next episode, or if they're going to follow up on that little threat that he did. So to conclude, I do think that the Blood Shepherd and Soulburner little duel itself, including the fact that the backstory for Blood Shepherd and Soulburner, I think although I wouldn't have wanted it initially, it was very well executed, bar that little reveal of, hey, I was always faking it. I think that it never hurt any of the characters. If anything, it kind of built them both up. Although there is a slight risk that it kind of made Blood Shepherd a little less serious. And, there are people speculating, and I think this is going to be the final question to you. Is Soulburner going to betray Yusaku?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's a question that I think everyone has had on their minds for a while. We're 63 episodes through Vrains, and where's that big betrayal that Yugioh almost always does, that Yoshida is famous for, whether it's going to be through Kusanagi or Soulburner, or it just is not going to happen, or the Ignis, it's just not going to happen. Do I think Soulburner will betray Yusaku? I actually am leaning no. I do not think so. I think there's a better chance that Kusanagi, for whatever reason, if Jin's life is on the line, because there's his motive right there to get back Jin, will maybe leave the side of Playmaker if it means saving his brother, because that just makes more sense to me. I can't see a way unless Soulburner gets brainwashed or mind controlled, which I don't really love that trope, that he would betray Playmaker. So I personally do not think that Soulburner will betray Yusaku.
Okay, a quick follow-up question, because I know there's a lot of people who will think about this, and I know there's a certain someone who voices Revolver himself, Daniel J. Edwards. I know he doesn't like Soulburner as much. Do you like Soulburner?
So it's a really good question, and you know who I like to compare him to? I like to compare him a lot to Crow from Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Okay. Crow is a character that came on similar time. I think Soulburner came on episode 48. Crow came on, I think, episode 31. Kind of just out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, you fast forward to 20 episodes, and now they're almost like the main character. And Crow was also invincible. Crow, besides those, Team 5Ds duels, never lost. I mean, he lost once to the Clock Dude, but he threw away the duel. He had Mirror Force. He could have won that duel. So Crow, just like Soulburner, unbeatable, and really because of Crow, Aki took a huge backseat, one of my favorite girl characters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! The twins probably took a huge backseat as well. So because of that, I don't really like Crow, especially in hindsight. But that's not to say that Crow is not a well-written character. It's just that he took away from other characters, and so I kind of unfairly, instead of getting angry at the writers, which is who I should be getting more angry at, I get angry at Crow's character. Soulburner, that's the reason people don't like Soulburner, in my opinion, because he's taken away from Aoi's Eyes, and he's taken away from Go. He's taken away from maybe even the Knights and Revolver. So I think Soulburner, honestly, has been a well-written character. He's been a little too invincible and a little too perfect for me to really love. He's not one of my top 5 favorite characters, but he's not. Some people will literally write to me oh well, Soulburner's dueling in the next episode, I guess I'm taking a week off from Vrains. Some people really do not like this guy. I'm not in that boat at all. I think he's a fine character, but I understand both sides of the coin. I understand why there is so much hate towards this character as someone who doesn't like Crow for very similar reasons from 5Ds.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. I'm on the boat where, I really do like Soulburner. I just, I'm biased because I love the Fire deck itself. I can't wait for the Salomon Greats to get released in the TCG, and that is simply it. Because especially that equipped spell card that was revealed, Rising Fire. Oh my god, I can't wait to play that. But in terms of Soulburner as a character, I like him, but I don't like the way Go and Aoi and even Ghost Girl and heck, even Akira, to a sense, are being treated. In terms of the Knights of Hanoi taking a bit of a backseat, no, I think that Soulburner is filling in the void so that the Knights can literally take a backseat and make a triumphant return when the time comes. Because obviously, I think it's kind of written that Revo is going to be somewhat of an anti-hero by the end of the series itself. Soulburner, you know what? I guess he's a bit like Marmite. You love him or hate him. However, for Blood Shepherd, I think you can only love him, but you might hate Vrains by the end because he's going to be one of those characters which they're a victim of underutilization because he has so much backstory and he's been built up and written very well, and if he's not utilized properly, it's just a big loss on their part. Do you have any final words before we close up this video?
I really do not. I'm excited to see where Vrains goes. If anyone is watching still to this point, you guys are awesome. You guys and gals are the best. Just to I always like to say thank you to people who are especially watching towards the end because those are the real troopers. It's definitely appreciated by Dimsy and I.
And of course, I know that you're not one to always say subscribe, but I really look, guys. I know if you're watching this, you probably have subscribed to Dylan, but genuinely, this guy does everything in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh! Please check him out on Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything. His reviews are the best. His scripted, amazing top 10 videos are just fantastic. So please just make sure to subscribe to him and check out everything that he does. Support him in every single way. Check out his Twitter, check out his Patreon. Just check him out. You're not going to regret it. I promise you. It's not like a Nega 1 when you play... someone give me a Nega 1 Yu-Gi-Oh card. You know what? He's a pot of greed. He's a pot of greed. You play him and boom, you draw 2 cards. You can't go wrong with that, can you? No.
Thank you, Dimsy.
With that being said, please make sure to like, share, comment and subscribe. With your do this, you may now exit Dimsy's domain. Thank you and goodbye.